Welcome, everyone. It's always exciting to participate in the professional and preschool family conference. Trish does a great job organizing things, and I'm always happy to be here to talk with you about APH and just what it means, and to answer any questions you have and tell you some of the most impactful, I would say, information that you can, as a professional or a family member, understand about APH, but then also to have just a little bit of knowledge on where to find products, or in this case, we like to try to share a product and then do a breakout. We have found that putting you together with one another can teach some people about things they don't know, and can put professionals together to brainstorm other ways in which you may be using a product with a student. So some of you may know a lot about APH, and some of you may not know as much. So basically, I'll just start out with an introduction to APH, tell you a little bit about some things, and then allow you some time to ask some questions you may have before we go to a breakout. So APH stands for the American Printing House for the Blind. We've got a link in the live binder here to that webpage. And really the mission is to break down barriers for students, children and adults who are blind or visually impaired through the process of creating tools and services to help really foster the main things: independence, stimulate discovery, and advance accomplishment. The federal quota program, or census, was really a congressional act in 1879. So the 45th Congress enacted this act, and it was initially called the Act to Promote the Blind. And APH was in Louisville, Kentucky, and was formed there to be a center in the nation for all things related to blindness. And the actual congressional act required that money would be set aside in each state for children and adults who are blind and visually impaired, to ensure they had equal access to items for learning. And this has significantly changed over time. What may have started out with embossed books, raised textbooks, like letters that were actually raised at the time, even before Braille was quite more popular, to include Braille textbooks, large print textbooks, and there are just thousands of products now. So the accounts that I manage are the ones that I wanted to talk with you about today. And some of you may serve the birth to 6 population, others may serve school age students, perhaps 3 to 21-year-old students. But so I manage 2 of our APH census accounts in Wisconsin. One is the statewide account for students aged 0 through 21. Who are blind or visually impaired and meet a certain set of criteria. It's almost always a teacher of the blind who reports that data to us each year. We're actually in the open reporting period at this point. This is the one place where I, as a DPI employee, do cross into working with infants and toddlers in 0 to 3, because students in birth to 3 are able to be registered on the census, and therefore receive some products as well. So that's basically the one account. A second account is a private or homeschool account for students also 0 to 21 years of age. The same set of criteria for them as well. And there is a third account that is managed by Dan Wenzel, the center director at our Wisconsin Center for the Blind. And Dan manages the Wisconsin School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, or WCBVI account, which is a separate account. And so what do they call me? They call me an EOT, or an ex officio trustee. And really what we do is manage the funds in each state, and we're taught by APH how to do this. I've had 2 or 3 mentor EOTs over the years. I started this in 2017. I've been to multiple meetings in Kentucky and Louisville. They're called annual meetings. They happen every October. And then through that process, I've learned to manage our state accounts, the 2 that I manage. And so what is APH? What things are available? And it's pretty much anything you could consider as a learning material to help children who are blind and visually impaired and adults, although I don't manage adult accounts, to basically meet education standards, to really like, Trish, if you would click the collaborating partners link that you're on right now. Perfect. So this just takes us to the Wisconsin Model Early Learning Standards. So Wisconsin, obviously teachers, we're teaching to a system of standards where children will perform in classes, basically. Children will have access to the curriculum and content that is being taught to all students. And so I include this just because sometimes families especially may not be as familiar at understanding the types of learning tools and the why, where we're going. And where we're going is that our teachers of the blind and orientation and mobility specialists, through the use of products through APH, can help support students in their learning toward the standards. So you could probably close that one, Trish. Awesome. I would say then, if you could click for me the Keep the Promise on 3B. Several years ago, APH provided sort of a flyer, a little pamphlet. And if you scroll down for me a little, Trish, that's perfect right there. An annual allocation, what does that mean? Each year, the Congress sends this certain amount of money for any student in each state that meets the criteria. So, for instance, teachers of the blind right now have been, in most cases, selected by their LEA or their local education agency. Every LEA has to make a determination on who completes the census paperwork. That essentially means teachers of the blind, in many cases, are the ones filling out paperwork to say the student is at this grade level, they do meet eligibility criteria because they have this, visual acuity. Essentially, they meet criteria. Yes, APH, they can be registered. And when I first started in 2017, the annual allocation per student was approximately $300 per student. Currently, it's approximately $400 to $420 per student. So what that means is each year, every eligible student has that much put into our account for the year. Now, that doesn't sound like much, and it's not. One Braille writer, for example, and I'll scroll and have Trish scroll in a moment, but one Braille writer can be close to $1,000. Yep, that's perfect, Trish. You can scroll. Perfect. $730. And this just gives an example of a few items that APH might have. The most impactful graphic I have ever felt was important to help districts and families and professionals have conversations about the impact and need for students who are blind in education was this graphic. And this is obviously not a preschool set of costs, but it is an example of looking at a 10th grade physics class for one student. I love that it shows some sample costs of what a district might expend for a student who's sighted. Reading and print, pencils, papers, textbook itself. In many cases, print textbooks are $80 to $100 for a student edition. Perhaps a graphing calculator, $135. Perhaps a tablet, $150. Perhaps they have a district-wide one-to-one device situation in their district, and maybe a laptop at $1,000. So the total cost for a 10th grade student who is sighted for physics is approximately $1,500. Now let's consider the student who's blind, who might be a Braille reading student. We estimate some costs for Braille writer, Braille paper, Braille embosser, which is like a Braille printer. APH now has some Braille embossers. So that's approximately $5,300. One physics textbook, you're not reading that incorrectly. Yes, 38 volumes for a physics textbook could be $26,000. It may take one Braille transcriber a full year to transcribe a textbook, especially in math, science, some of the higher level subjects. Then a graphing calculator that has speech, so that will talk to you, approximately $600. Perhaps a tablet that has access to use of a refreshable Braille display, approximately $1,800. And then that same laptop the student who was sighted might have used, but with screen reading software so that the student can access the computer in the same way. So $2,000. So this is an approximation of $36,000 for one student who's blind in 10th grade. So you can see that if I'm receiving for my 2 accounts statewide, approximately $400 per student, that won't go far enough to cover perhaps all the needs this student may have. That would total $36,000. So Trish, you can close this, but this one I would bookmark if I were you, and just, refer to this. And especially if you're having discussions with districts or wanting to talk with one another or explain to families how learning materials would be utilized through APH, for example, to help a student in classes. So really, all of those costs cannot cover with the $400 that I might have per student. So here's what we do. Any student can really receive any item if they are a registered and qualified student. And what we've had to do throughout the time that I've taken over the accounts is to follow what many other states do, which is called high cost loan. An item that has a cost of $1,000 or more is something that an eligible and qualified student can loan for a semester. It allows their district to try it with their TVI and see if that item will work. And a lot of times there's sort of a misunderstanding that APH means free things for all the kids who are blind all the time. And so hopefully this helps to explain that in Wisconsin, we purchase many of the items that are requested by our stakeholders and vision professionals to have in our loan libraries. So those items then can be loaned for a semester at a time, and it helps a district make a decision. Sometimes TVIs will loan 2 or 3 items that just to find out what might work best. So that's sort of for the higher cost technology items. In many other cases, things that are consumables are considered things like Braille paper or a slate and stylus to write Braille, or early literacy Braille books and other games, board games. And so those items that we call consumables are, I would say, not limited. If a student has the need and a form is submitted and the student has been officially registered on the quota, then they basically can loan that item through us. So I didn't get down to the nitty gritty of the specifics of ordering. I can do that if you'd like, if you have questions, but I knew we'd have a wide array of people, some with some experience and some not with as much. So I did give a link. Trish, you don't have to click on it, but I did show the list of EOTs or ex officio trustees, should you want to click and sort of look at all of them across every state. These are the ones that I attend. I just had a meeting a few minutes before this one started. So we attend bi-weekly meetings, and then we travel to Louisville, Kentucky, sometimes multiple times in a year. There is an extensive product and services review process, and they actually utilize us as the EOTs to help guide the ways that we can improve products and services that APH offers. So I was recently able to be nominated for the EPAC, it's called the Educational Products Advisory Committee. And so I do have a unique perspective now and can share many of the concerns or questions that our stakeholders across our whole state might have about a product. You know, oh, they took away this thing in this product. Why'd they do that? I want you to tell APH that, you know, I don't like that change to that APH product. And also we've got ongoing surveys from APH where they want to hear from you, parents using products, early childhood special ed teachers using products, directors who say, oh, I didn't like that product, and, you know, vision professionals. So we do a weekly update each week through our outreach communications. And actually, I just sent today a set of surveys that APH has asked us to put out. So many exciting things that happen through APH. Whenever there's a question, definitely don't hesitate to ask. And then something new that is very impactful is sort of the last thing that I'll talk about. And Trish, if you could click on the Hive link. So the Hive is an online like digital learning platform. It has courses about visual impairment. The courses can be taken by parents, families, students, other consumers, professionals. It is free. You, in many cases, will receive a certificate for your webinar that you've attended. The certificates are linked through ACVREP, or the Academy for the Certification of Vision Professionals. So some of our professionals in the blindness field have different types of licenses that they need to renew their professional development through attending courses and that sort of thing. But these courses are all free. So Trish, if you could click on the course catalog link for me. Excellent. There are currently 5 categories of courses, and it started with just a few, I would say. But if Trish, you could click early childhood for me. So knowing that a lot of our audience does serve birth to 5, here's just 2 examples of early childhood webinars that are available for the ACVREP credit hours if you're interested. What APH is doing is starting to work with either other state schools for the blind or service providers across the nation. In many cases, it might be a teacher of the blind across the nation. So if you as a professional are using a certain product in a certain way and you'd love to offer something to APH, you can come to me and say, I think I could create a course for the Hive, and APH may want to connect with you about that if there isn't something existing. So for example, creating learning environments with items from the home for students who are blind and visually impaired. All you have to do is register by clicking sign in. And Trish, you don't have to do that right now, but it is completely free to register for the Hive. And once you register, you can take any of the courses that are available at any time. You can share them with an IEP or IFSP team. You can share them with members on a team that perhaps you took a session that you really loved and you think maybe the occupational therapist or the physical therapist or a speech and language pathologist might benefit from watching it, or parents. I have, and so it's new, and they're building courses every day. And I've given a lot of feedback on some of the courses that I have wanted to see come, especially related to some of the APH products that are out there. And you have that ability too. And through me, I can share some of your ideas or thoughts, something that you may want to see come from this. So thank you, Trish.
Okay, I can't see anybody. So Dawn, can you see the screen, or are you for the names of people?
Yep.
Okay.
I can see your
call
screen.
on people to let them, or when it comes to asking them what their favorite activity it is. I want to let everybody know that's watching the video that this is a document that's created by the professionals that join the group. It holds a lot of out-of-the-box activities that you can use with your students or your children for the activity for 6 Dots game of cards. And it is located in the live binder, and it will always be located under the professional connection session. And all times we will not remove it, so you can access it at any time. So Dawn, could you call on people to ask them what their favorite activity that was thought of in this document?
You bet. So Anne from Rock County.
Oh, we had such good ones. I really liked the teachers came up with some really good out of the box kind of things with using kind of the human braille basically, and doing it with the cards. So I thought that was a really creative idea.
Excellent. Thank you, Anne. Lynette.
We kind of went with Tricia's idea about hiding them in the room, but having a scavenger hunt and looking for the cards somewhere in the room, and maybe they could look for them in order of dots, like dot 1, then dot 2.
I love that. I hadn't thought of that. That'd be fun to team with an O&M too. I really like that too, Lynette. Maria.
Sorry, I had to answer a phone call. So that I think, so I don't know if anybody had said it yet or not, but mine were like the number 12 and 13, having the room set up like a dot space, or setting up like a human braille cell with chairs, just make, and have them like match the card or stand up if they have it, or go to the same place in the room.
I also love that. That kind of gets into some of the braille games we've played before. Yep. That's fun. I like that.
Yes.
Thanks, Maria. Okay, Katie.
One of the ideas that I had was, depending on the students' vision, if they're reading large print still or braille, is to have them use their magnifier or a portable magnifier to scan the page and look for key events, like how to win the game and things like that, and then try to describe how to play. I think that's important. A lot of times kids just hear the rules, but they don't read them themselves and have to decipher what to do.
Excellent. I like that too. Thank you. Missy.
I have to admit that I enjoyed our rabbit trail. We got to talking about some other games that are good to be able to play with students who are blind and visually impaired and peers. And so we talked about Dead Drop and Suro, and one that's probably middle school, high school only, and Nyctophobia. So that was kind of fun.
I love that. We wondered if you'd have those rabbit trail discussions, and those are the best. That you guys always ask us for a little more time in breakout rooms, and you have such great ideas together. We were hoping you guys would go down those paths. Thank you. Lanika.
I really love the idea. I kind of got it from Katie. She was saying doing spelling out the child's name and doing like a match. So having the same set of cards in your hand and then having you spell out the child's name and then having that child match it. So I thought that was a pretty good idea.
I love that too. And I think I got through everyone, Trish.
I am just amazed at all of these ideas. These are great. It really makes me want to go back into teaching sometimes when I get around all the teachers and professionals. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the document, but remember, this document will be living in the live binder at all times. So anytime you want to access it,